Hey everybody, Adam and Andrew here with It Takes Two Takes, here to talk about season 3 of Cobra Kai. It's back. Before I go there, you know what to do. We appreciate any subscriptions, comments, notification bells, the works. Listen, what we do, we talk about television shows, we talk about movies, we react to those things from time to time. It's just the two of us having conversations, and every now and then we go out there with some projects like doing throwback reviews and things like that. So if that's your thing, you and like that kind of discussion, please get involved. Have a discussion with us. We appreciate any involvement you can do. So with that said, Adam, you and I have been following Cobra Kai since it was a YouTube original. Now on Netflix, of course, it's gained in popularity as a result.
Yeah, I think I had
And
to talk you into watching that first season, I think.
okay, so we're going to do a whole video about how you're going to take credit for recommending. We could do that all day. I mean, we're going to do a whole special about shows we've recommended to one another, Adam.
Just
Listen,
saying, I'm
so
pretty sure I told you it was awesome and then had to tell you you needed to watch it. I'm just
well,
saying.
yeah, I mean, because like most people out there, I didn't even know what YouTube originals were out there, and that I think speaks to the fact that this show would have been more popular had it come out the gate on something that marketed it better, that was a bigger platform. And here we are, right? It's on Netflix. It's out. They bumped it to January 1st, the new year, and everyone's talking about it. So that's what we're gonna do. We watched all 10 episodes. I, I don't even like. We're gonna try to stay focused here. We're gonna focus on some topics I think that are important, things that could lead into future seasons, things that call back from previous seasons and in the original films. But with that said, we opened up a lot more references to the films that hadn't been touched up to this point, specifically Karate Kid 2 early on in the season, which I think you appreciated. I know you're really looking forward to seeing Chosen and Kamiko returning.
Yeah, I was very happy with that. I mean, obviously this season picks up where the last season left off, right? They had the big school fight, and now there's repercussions, right? They start off with news clips indicating, this made the news. It was a big deal, this karate fight. Now karate has kind of been demonized in the area. Johnny is at a new low compared to even how he started in the first season. Daniel's walking on eggshells with his wife because their daughter got hurt. Um,
And Johnny's walking
Robbie,
on eggshells around Carmen,
yeah,
rightfully so.
Robbie is missing because he was the one who kicked Miguel, and then Miguel's in the hospital, in a coma. So I mean, they were very much picking up, and I expected the first half of this season, which it very much was a reaction to the end of last season because that was a big deal. And so I was not surprised that most of the first half of the season was kind of like damage control. And
It, it was
Daniel
damn.
was
Go ahead.
Daniel is floundering, right? And that's where we get the lead into Okinawa because he's got to go to Japan because his competitor, who we really didn't see a whole lot last season, his local car dealership competitor has screwed up one of the models of cars that he sells, and he's need to go to Japan and try and fix the relationship because they're worried about the karate stuff being a bad PR thing for them. So at least they gave a different reason why he went to Japan other than just I'm lost and I'm gonna go to Okinawa. So I was
Yeah,
kind of happy about that.
yeah, it wasn't some sort of like walkabout or something, some way of journeying to find himself again. No, he went out there for business. It made sense and it worked. And listen, I could bring up a lot of things about this show, and there are a lot of convenience factors from a plot standpoint with this show. But I say that with peace and love, because there are a lot of things, as I've mentioned before, with this show where it's like, okay, that's convenient. Okay, that little bit of dialogue. All right, this. But for whatever reason, like we embrace it with this show. I think it's because of the fact that it's spinning off of an 80s, karate film, let's just call it that for the moment, where that was, it's in the spirit of a very, revered film from the 80s. So I feel like it's things like that where you're like, yeah, like right. Like you could call it guilty pleasure, but I wouldn't even do that. That's not even fair to it to say that. It's things like that you're like you're there for the ride. You know what you're in for. And we've known that for 2 seasons now. So yes, he gets to Japan, and first we have someone that you and I, Adam.
Well, the meeting doesn't go well. He's sitting in a bar, kind of depressed, figuring out his next move because his meeting with the car dealership or the car company didn't go well.
Right.
But he sees a commercial advertising Okinawa, and he goes to Okinawa and expecting a kind of return to what he remembered, and it's now a mall, now a shopping plaza.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure I read one time that the Karate Kid was actually shot in Hawaii, so that wasn't really shot in Okinawa to begin with. So it didn't really matter that this time he actually went to Okinawa, and it looks totally different because it worked for the premise of what happened to Tomi Village.
Right.
It. And everyone in Tomi Village is happy about this new development of modernization and shopping. There's a KFC.
We used to have a Subway. Now we have a Jersey Mike's.
They're very excited. And he runs into to his old flame.
Yes, we're here. Yes. Kimiko's
Yeah.
here.
Yes. And she actually ends up acting, since all the older wise characters from Karate Kid Part 2 are passed away in real life as well as in the show. She kind of acted as that spiritual guide for him in this one to kind of help rehabilitate his soul, right?
We always lose our way. But it is people, not the signs, that guide us back to the right path.
I think it's interesting that she did that. She brought really not only his soul, but she really brought I noticed that it's almost like past like connections. You could say loves in this case, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of them reconciling differences from, in this case, Daniel's past, right? We'll talk a little bit about Chosen, but that's kind of a big part of what she did as well. And you could say the same about Ali. I kind of appreciated that she didn't create some triangle, which we were worried about. She, kind of got Johnny and Daniel to see each other's differences. So I feel like these past people that they brought into this season kind of served that purpose, and I kind of appreciated that.
I feel like there was still kind of a spark. Like I feel like if Daniel wasn't married, that could have re-sparked. Less so than with Ali. I think that had a possibility because she's never been married. She's never had any kids. And they joke around about the fact that
I'm supposed to believe that a guy never got a ring on that finger.
Many tried, but none of them fought to the death for me.
But she's the one who ultimately reunites him with Chosen, his foe from Karate Kid Part 2. They created a whole tense scene for it ultimately to be Chosen's not that bad guy anymore.
Live or die, man. Die. Wrong.
For him ultimately to be like,
Yeah.
Chosen. No. Honk.
That's what it led to, which is obviously a great callback. So
It was. There were a lot of great callbacks in that to Karate Kid Part 2 during that whole segment in Okinawa, right? There was so many clips that were shown. It really was a great callback to that second movie. And it was great. Daniel learned some new things he didn't know about, some new techniques.
Which we knew would come in handy later. And, if anything, if I had to say anything about the Chosen, Kimiko, I was pretty satisfied with their reunion. Chosen, I felt like the training felt a little rushed. I would have liked them to maybe, I get why it wasn't I didn't want 3 episodes of it, don't get me wrong, but it did feel like, whoa, you just learned some powerful shit from Chosen, and he's got to go. He can't even stick around to hang and talk to Kimiko or anybody. Like, it was just like, boom, boom, out. So that would be my only small critique, but otherwise, very well done.
And I'm guessing, that technique was what was on the scroll also. So that was the other reason, why they were able to rush it. It's like, oh, here's pretty much the instruction manual for what I just used against you.
Right.
But at the same time, they've opened up this path in the future, if they really wanted to, for Chosen to still be someone who can help him connect with the Miyagi family karate. Because Chosen learned from Sato, who learned from Miyagi's own father himself, right? Miyagi and Sato learned side by side. They knew the same stuff. Sato taught Chosen. So Chosen could ultimately be, again, a karate mentor to him in the future if they ever wanted to revisit that. And that was great. Both those actors, both wanted to return and were interested in returning to this franchise. Even when it started back in season 1, they both expressed interest in revisiting their characters if the opportunity arose, and I'm glad it did. And they did it respectfully, and I'm happy about that. It was great, and it kind of acted as a good segue from the damage control to what needs to be done for the second half of the season, I think.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit. It was a little bit of, and some people might like this, it was a little bit of a free-for-all in terms of the combat, in terms of the fighting in this season. And what I mean by that is you didn't have sort of the tournament environment that we're so used to, and really what made the, one of the most iconic scenes in, of course, the franchise being with the original films. So I saw them trying to bring back the All Valley tournament, and it was all about building up these dojos. And I know
we have 3 now,
right? And I know that's what's in store for season 4 at this point, I hope. But this is my personal preference, but it seemed like every environment became combat. It was, you had a mechanic's garage. You had LaRusso's own house. You had the high school. You had, everybody was
soccer field.
Yeah, an arcade. It was just constant, and that was fine, especially if you love that stuff, which I do. But I do feel like I wanted the established fight. I wanted this is everything we built, and under these parameters, who's better now? And we didn't really get that, and I understand why. But that, again, my own personal small thing, but I do wish we would have had that this season.
Yeah, and I feel like since they've already led in, the end of the season kind of leads into into December. Season 4, that tournament's going to have to be early in the season.
Yeah.
Because that tournament happens in December, and we're in December now, right? So there's not a whole lot of time for I think a full season to kind of leave the tournament for the end. Did you pick up what they're leading to with the backstory on John Kreese?
Yeah. So Terry Silver, his it basically was the one that told him, like, I'm indebted to you, basically, right? And yeah, so we're dipping into Karate Kid 3. Here we go, right?
Yeah, I'm. It'll be interesting to see if they bring Mike Barnes into it as well, or if it'll just be Terry Silver to kind of do a 2-on-2, or how that will play out. Yeah, the house fight wasn't as epic as the school fight, as far as grandness type of deal.
I mean, yeah, I agree. The house fight, I did appreciate a lot of the single takes that they tried again with that. I mean, that stuff's cool, but yeah, I agree. It's not quite the playground feel when you're inside a house. Like, and if anything, I feel like they should have emphasized how much they were damaging more. That would have felt a little bit more alarming to me. We saw it, but it wasn't as impactful to me.
Yeah, what we ultimately saw was this fight was to lead into the idea that a new alliance is being formed between Eagle Fang Karate and
right.
Miyagi-Do.
Yeah. Eagle Fang is
Johnny and his name of his dojo, Eagle Fang, and the fact that someone did point out the fact that eagles don't have fangs.
Right.
Welcome to Eagle Fang Karate. Eagles don't have fangs.
Immediately.
Yeah, it that didn't phase Johnny. It just sounded cool to him.
Yeah, I know. And I love that he had the merch already and everything, and he'd already just like he not only to decide on the name, he had it all mapped out. I have to think that when they came up, when they were writing it for the show, like I have to think that Eagle Fang was probably like the last. It was like that one choice where someone was just like, I've already given them I've already written down 20, and here's number 21. It's just throwaway, and everyone realized it was throwaway, and they're like, that's for this show. That's not even like. Yeah. So bad.
Like how absurd can we make this name? Type of deal.
Right.
And it's got to fit Johnny Lawrence and his perception of it's got to be badass, right?
Right.
And the whole fight is going on, and you've got alliances that are being formed at the same time that Daniel and Johnny and Allie are all meeting together at the country club and reminiscing about old times. There's no jealousy between Daniel's wife and Allie. They actually bond really quickly.
Oh, I cannot wait to talk to you.
I was thinking the same thing.
And both help point out the absurdity of those two guys' feud. And Allie ultimately is just there to kind of set Johnny on the right path, I think. Especially by pointing out to both of them that...
And the truth is, you guys are more alike than you want to admit. And maybe you recognize parts of yourselves in each other, and maybe you don't always like what you see.
You're touching on something really important when you say that, though, because, not to slight it, because I think that was actually a brilliant move, because if you think about it, it's the same thing that Daniel's wife's been telling him. It's the same thing that, Johnny's heard from a number of people, like the feud between, but when you bring in Allie, it's the one person that they mutually have that that memory, that level of respect.
She was the center of that feud beginning, right?
I guess it's possible some small part of all of this is my fault.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So yeah, I thought it was effective. I love that there wasn't a weird, awkward love triangle. I kept expecting, there were so many scenes when Johnny was out with Allie that I kept thinking Carmen was just going to conveniently walk by, like when they're sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? I was like, here we go. And I was like almost tense, like waiting for that predictable, but I'm just glad they didn't go there.
And they rewrote history a little bit. The beginning of Karate Kid Part 2, after they do the after tournament scene in the parking lot, we see Daniel right after he broke up with Allie, and the car has been in an accident or whatever, and he says,
"You mean what didn't happen? First I let Allie borrow the car and she redesigns my fender, and I don't know what she did with the engine, but that ain't running right either. You know what else she does? She tells me that she's just fallen in love with some football player from UCLA.
And now she's saying,
so I got into UCLA, and I ran into this guy that I knew who went there. Daniel sees me talking to my friend.
I thought you were in love with the guy.
I told you. Just like I told you that the brakes on Mr. Miyagi's car were gonna go.
So they ultimately, where Karate Kid Part 2 had started off kind of setting her up in a bad light, they kind of cleaned up her image a little bit by saying, no, Daniel, once again, you weren't listening type of idea. I appreciated that idea, that it was, that they kind of, again, Daniel just not looking at the bigger picture. And so I didn't object to that, but it was interesting that they did do kind of that cleanup to Allie and Daniel's breakup.
The show is just really good at doing those things. If anything, like if nothing stands the test of time with the show, which it will, one thing I appreciate is like I'm trying to think, I could think of some examples, but I feel like with this show, they do such a good job of taking source material that was not the most intricate or in-depth, and they've really mined from it and made something out of it and stayed very faithful and accurate. It's very impressive. Like if even if you find it cheesy, even if it's not your thing entirely, like that alone should impress almost anybody if they know those first three films and then what they're doing with the show. It really does impress me for, of all things, the Karate Kids, movies 1, 2, and 3. We're not talking Star Wars here. We're not talking, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. Like this is Karate Kid, and they're somehow making this like very accurate and canon. It's just so interesting to me. So we probably could have brought this up earlier, honestly, but before I forget, I don't want to forget to talk about one of the things I most look forward to with this season was the Johnny and Miguel storyline and their relationship and you know, developing that. And I felt like that to me was very well done. It, for the most part, the core of it took place early in the season as he was trying to regain his strength and walk. And obviously, Miguel, throughout the rest of the season, I mentioned how I wanted there to be a tournament. Miguel wouldn't have been ready. Like the guy was fighting. He was like, he was nerfed. He wasn't,
right.
You know, but so there's that. But anyway, I really did like how Johnny came through as a character with him as well. And the relationship with him, and it completely delivered it in my opinion in that regard. So it was cool to see him trying to, you know, circumvent the rules of the hospital, you know, banging his head into a paper towel dispenser, you know, ultimately working in an unorthodox way. Him dangling a 1988 swimsuit edition in front of Miguel was so great. Like, you know, he's like, I can just get this on my phone. He's like, yeah, but it's on the page. Like it played into all of his sort of the stereotypes that he has from being this kind of like 80s sort of dude bro, you know, but also it just made his character, again, it kind of gave him this continued warmth, and he kind of got more and more mature as a person. I loved it. So
well,
that was
they both learn from each other, which I think is what's great between the Johnny and Miguel character, right? Miguel is, besides learning karate, is learning to be more of a man. Right. And Johnny's obviously been there to help him rehabilitate and be a best friend to him, more so than any of the others.
More so than he's a father to Robbie, which nobody wants to be messing with that. You know.
But then also Miguel is there, kind of bringing him a little bit up to date, right? Like, I tagged you.
Yeah.
What do you mean tag me? On Facebook. Oh, I threw my phone away.
Right.
You can get it on your computer. Or even the fact that the pawn shop had to tell him that you can plug in the computer to charge it, right? He's like, You told me it was wireless.
Right.
You know, so Miguel has been there to kind of like, and when they did the whole photo shoot to try and do photos for his Facebook, you know,
so great.
And Miguel's there to teach him like, no, don't send an 80-page message, you know?
You cannot send her that message.
Why not?
Because it's like 80 pages in all caps.
Right.
Miguel is very much kind of bringing him a little bit into the now, into what he should be, how he should be behaving. And obviously Miguel is growing as well. And like you said, Robbie and him, still not a good relationship even this season. I was not surprised by
with anybody.
I was not surprised that Robbie went John Kreese. I figured that was...
What took you so long?
Robbie, what are you doing here?
He's exactly where he belongs.
You know, with 3 dojos, I didn't see Hawk or Tori being the main catalyst for that new dojo. So Robbie made sense.
And you already know there's going to be a Robbie Tori thing going on in season 4. They're telegraphing that one. And Robbie, look, wait, hang on a second. But Robbie joining Kreese, I don't know that I saw it coming. It didn't surprise me when it happened. Robbie's just a straight bore. That's just me. Like, I think it's the performance. Nothing against the actor, but the guy looks like he's just like, I don't know.
I really liked Tori's growth in this season.
Tori, I'm good with. I have no problems with Tori. Robbie, and then you know, he's joining Kreese, which Robbie's pretty much homeless, and I'm pretty sure Kreese is too, because that guy's got to be living in that dojo, right? That guy's never not there. And it's like, did he pick up the rent? Like, I don't know what's going on with the dojo.
Tori had some great growth, but ultimately Robbie had to be on the opposite side of wherever Johnny is.
And now Daniel.
Right. But mainly it had to be on the opposite side of Johnny, which if Johnny's going to team up with Daniel against Kreese, that means the opposite side is on Kreese's side. You know, the fight between Kreese, Daniel and Johnny at the end was entertaining, especially Daniel pointing out that
little bastard kicked your ass more than once.
You know, which definitely triggered Kreese a little bit. And Kreese realized he's not really a match against those two.
Why don't we settle this the old-fashioned way? Tournament.
And so that's ultimately why he's going to call in Terry Silver. But the fight scene there, it didn't need to be overly long, and it wasn't overly long. It was just, I think, the right amount of length for that fight between them three. Obviously, Johnny not wanting to fight Robbie, but it was good, and it's a good setup for the next season, which is, I think, ultimately what that fight was supposed to do.
Yeah, I think season 3 as a whole, leading up to that fight, it was all about. I mean, we've pretty much been saying it, right? It's all been about, I think, sort of redemption and rebuilding, literally and figuratively, in a number of ways. Like we talked about, of course, Johnny. We talked about, Robbie's probably the only one that really hasn't hit his stride in that regard, I would assume. But even Hawk, you kind of saw him it was chipping away at him over and over between, Kreese's demands and the way that he was turning him against his friends and getting people out of the dojo. Like, he started to slowly see things, and obviously he turned. So,
do you want to help me win this thing? Yeah.
It was a lot of that, and I think that fight was kind of like, we finally drawn the line. We're gonna join forces. This is the last straw, and Kreese, there's no redemption for this guy, and we're going to settle this, as senseis, right? We can only assume.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because that's why I figured the tournament's going to happen in the early part of season 4 is what I predict. So they're going to do that early part of season 4, because I feel like that's possibly going to go off the rails or be the catalyst that draws us into whatever happens the second half of season 4, right? Because obviously a tournament is not where Johnny, Daniel, Kreese, and Silver are going to have really a good showdown, which they're building up for. So I feel like ultimately that's going to lead into the later half of season 4. I think the first half we're going to get a little bit of training, then we'll get the tournament, and Silver, I think, might, since the tournament's going to happen fairly early, Silver's not going to have had a chance to really make a big impact, and that's why he'll play a bigger part into the second half. He'll show up in the first half, but I think he'll mainly play a much bigger role in the second half after whatever happens at the tournament.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you. I was going to say, if they do it early on, which I agree they kind of need to, and even if it means that the tournament is not the big showdown, whether it's another tournament or whether it's, Kreese fighting Johnny and or Daniel again, I don't know. But is Terry Silver, is he showing up after the tournament? Is he going to be doing any involvement leading up to the tournament? Is it Kreese and Terry training Robbie? Yeah, and the others, Tori and all them. I don't know. I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out.
I am too. It'll be interesting to see what they do, how they end up doing season 4. They got to do something, though, at the same time to progress time a little bit. Like, after this happens, they got to find some reason that time progresses a little bit, because all these actors who are young actors, some of them are starting to show that they've aged a little bit. And we had a big break from when they finished filming season 3 to when they ultimately, if they haven't already started filming season 4, when they're going to start filming season 4, some of these young actors, I've already noticed, like Miguel looking definitely older, right?
Yeah.
And some of these other characters are going to look older. You can't really help that because they're legit aging. So they're going to have to do, I think, something that speeds up time or something, because they can't go at the pace where they're going right now, where it takes 3 seasons to go a little over a year in time.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think for the younger actors.
I don't think they have the momentum to be able to do that. So I feel like they got to at least do something, jump up until close to summer break again or something. You kind of had a little bit of that separation between seasons 1 and 2, since season 2 happened mostly over summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you kind of need to have some sort of a time jump again.
Yeah, like you said, I agree. For especially for the younger actors, I mean, let's be honest, Ralph Macchio is not that guy's never going to age, so he's in the clear.
Same with Johnny Lawrence, it seems like.
Yeah, he's held up all right, especially between, at least I can only speak from seasons 1 through season 3, but yeah.
Elizabeth Shue looked good.
Yeah, well, it's a compound V, man. That's what's
that's the compound V. So, but yeah, I'm definitely invested in season 4. Can't wait. Hopefully, if they haven't already started filming, they'll start filming really soon, and we can get that a lot quicker than we got this last season because it won't be switching streaming services this time.
Yeah, I'm glad everyone's embracing this. I'm glad that it's getting a larger following than it ever could have possibly had on YouTube. And honestly, it would have been canceled by now if it had stayed around on YouTube. Even if YouTube continued with original programming, I don't know if they would have kept up with it. So we're fortunate.
Love to hear your opinions on this season. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were there any standout moments we didn't mention that you'd like to comment on? And let us know. Leave some comments. Of course, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in our next video. Until next time, this is Adam and Andrew with It Takes Two Takes.